had a chance to talk to you since the decision with Zeke. Just go over the decision of moving on from Zeke and how tough it was.
It was all about making the adjustment principally because of the cap and because of where we were. That's not to imply that that we didn't think that in the grand scheme of things that what we were going to possibly give up there that Zeke brought us, which I'd love to have him. But again, with what we need to do to make our cap work and what we can do to really, in our minds, improve either through scheme or through another player, that was worth us saving that money on the cap.
Jerry, how close did you come to sitting down with him and saying, let's work out a way to stay?
Well, that was on the table. And you might say that to some degree that hasn't changed and won't until he signs someplace else.
But did y'all make him an offer?
No specific offer.
No.
Okay, what you're saying is down the line, he's available, you have a need, you could revisit that?
I don't want to ever, and I don't want to leave him hanging, our fans hanging, or anybody. But I wouldn't take any possibility off the table.
Was he, because you've got a long list of emotional decisions that you've made with guys that you've been close to. He's on that list somewhere, right?
Well, Zeke gave us everything he had and more, and we gave him everything we had and more. So that's the way you'd like to end
it. Jerry, just your overall approach at this stage, more aggressive than you've been over the last 12 years as far as being able to execute a couple of trades and get some things. Was that a dedicated effort to go about it a little bit differently this offseason? Did it fall into place? How would you characterize?
We've tried to do this type of thing before, and it just didn't work out on the other end. And but we've gone after free agents, or in some cases where we knew what our appetite was, we didn't even try. But I always knew either front door or back door whether or not I should be trying. But I would say I don't remember a time or a specific in free agency that we weren't carefully evaluating whether or not we could justify financially in the whole financial picture a possibility of bringing on a free agent. And in most cases, we're always felt pretty confident that if we got the pot right, they'd love to be a Cowboy. And so I think it's reasonable to think that you can look at it from afar. You can really evaluate the player, and if he would really help our team, then we've got a decision to make. Then, do we want to, do we want to allocate that kind of money to it? Now, these are long-winded ways of saying, can we get it done for what we think the right thing for the team is? We couldn't get it done with him during the season, our receiver in Houston. We couldn't get it done. We knew about him because our receiver coach coached him. And we knew that he had a big-time potential answer for what we needed. But we couldn't get it done then, and so, but he was logically, when the season was over and we got in this free agency, then he was a perfectly logical way for us to look. But then both his team as well as him were in better shape to look at us.
How reasonable is it to look at Cooks as if he's kind of a replacement for the departed Amari Cooper?
Oh, I think what you want Cooks to do is what Amari did for the overall passing game, not only in the production, which you counted on with Amari, but also the room he opened up for the other receivers. And those two things, because of Cooks' speed and because of just his route running ability, he does that for us.
Are you better?
Gilmore? What do you like? What Stephon Gilmore can bring on the cornerback position?
His instincts, and of course he's got great athletic ability, but his instincts, and in this particular case, his experience, and the fact that he's got a lot of gas left in his tank.
Right. Both of those are older players. Both of them have a lot of gas, you believe, left in the tank to help this team. Is this team better now than it was at the end of the season with those two guys?
Yes.
When you go through your list of things to do, the things that you intended to do this offseason, what's left?
Well, we've got ourselves in real good shape to get some picks that we can play immediately, and that's the goal. And if you think about it, that should have been the goal when you went into the offseason. If you'll get yourself to where you can draft some players you can put on the field, and be position selective a little bit when you're doing it. Now, we don't ever want to pass on the guy you ought to be taking there, but still be position selective. And that's, I think, where we are. I feel good that we could take any position there with any pick.
Run stopping, playmaking, defensive tackle, still on the wish list? And where are you at with Hankins?
Well, and of course, we're working to get something done there with Hankins, and that's in progress. And certainly to the extent that we have sitting right there a potential player that can help us, big boy that could help us in the interior, we'll always keep that in mind too. But I think without talking about something that isn't done yet, I think that we're going to be in good shape with what we will be having relative without the draft. We'll be in good shape there. So it's not going to put us in a bind where we have to have a big run-stopping interior lineman.
In these recent years in free agency, you've done smart moves, addressed positions, but hadn't really made the splash that you were able to this all season at this point. Can you speak to that, just what that does for the fans, and is it important also to the locker room as well to show these guys we're back-to-back 12-5, we're right there, we're going now?
Well, I think you have to really get enthused when you bring, in this case, a couple of players. You have to feel good about the supporting cast, and our fans should. I can't tell you how excited I am about this real emphasis that Mike is putting on his intense participation in what we're doing offensively, which is called the plays. That's very significant, and I think you get the best out of Mike McCarthy this way. And it was propitious to do it at this time as opposed to if he'd just coming through the door. And so he's gotten to learn some things about the team, learn some things about the overall club, and so that number one. Well, if our fans add that up, that our ability to really coach this team, if you'll add that up and then you take the acquisition of those veteran players, the re-signing of our veteran players, bringing back our safety Wilson, doing those kinds of things, I'm excited for our fans, but more excited than the fans.
The right tackle is Terrence Steele. Are you looking at him at guard?
I don't think that he's such a top tackle.
Right.
And as we have it right now, he should be the backup tackle on both sides, as we would look at it right today. Okay. And of course, that's a lot of position flex right there. You say, well, why don't you move Tyler in? But we've also know that Tyron and Tyler both would make quite a tandem out there. But the smart play would be to have outstanding depth there, and still gives you that. So what to me Steele does is become a part of a three-man position look when you look at the tackles. Okay. That is the best that we've ever been fixed, because we've got Tyler when he's available, and we've got Steele there that's going to get his snaps and may get a lot of snaps, And then you got your young boy Tyler that just is outstanding and got nothing but upside ahead of him. So I think that looking at it that way gives us as good a tackle position on offense as we've been.
What are you looking at left guard then?
We could have dressed it in the draft. We could dress it interior and from the interior with a couple of our young guys. So I'm ready to go from within.
Okay, left guard. Okay.
Wetzler's got a big promise here too. Wetzler? Well, I call him Wetzler, but it's not. Let's go.
Well, let's go. He's a tackle.
Well, let's go. Well, let's go.
He's a tackle.
He's a tackle, but he gives you a lot of depth, and he gives you some flex on what you're doing at guard if you need it. But I like our young, and if you'll include him, as far as a couple of two or three offensive linemen on the come, I like where we are as well as we've been in years. So we're not in a position, but if we just get in there and the player in the offensive line is there for us at the right spot, I wouldn't hesitate. Matter of fact, I'll take him.
Right.
You've said every year, talked about setting up to be draft as purely as you can and not draft for need.
Right.
Are you as well suited to do that this year than you have over the last 10 or 12 years?
Yes.
I mean, are you better suited?
Yes, I'm ahead of your question, but I mean,
Okay.
yes. Because after all, what we're trying to do is make Dak more available, which if you look at the last 3 years, he needs to be more available. And for everything we're doing and feel good about in this offensive line should make him more available. And then we're doing some things in the line, some technique and some philosophy that will really help Dak out. So I'd say to our fans, these adjustments that we're making in our offense, both as at the receiver, both at what Dak's responsibilities are before that snap, and both at his protections and ways that he can give himself more protection by some options of getting rid of the ball. All of those things is, I think you add all of that up, and you are going to see Dak at his very best.
You talked about Dak. Have you addressed the contract? Have y'all even begun discussing an extension? We've talked about that a couple of times.
But we haven't been discussing it.
Okay.
It'd be wrong to couch any conversation we've ever had about his contract as a extension in progress.
How much, in regard to Dak, are you going to do an extension, probably, because you want to, because he's the quarterback for the next decade, and how much because of salary cap-wise you need to, you have to?
Both, with equal importance. Both.
You guys good?
David?
You good? All right.
Fantastic.
Super.
I was going
Go.
to ask you about Daniel Snyder, because that's obviously going to
Yes,
be a big
yeah.
thing here. Where
Sitting beside Tanya, and really, really good to see her, and don't have any comment on the Washington team situation as to anything that's evolving in ownership.
Jerry, you've been a friend and
resolution
mentor to
here?
Mr. Snyder since his introduction to the league. Is the circumstance and the relationship the same? Is it fungible, as you might say?
Yeah, I think that the natural thing you looked at, I think it's a little more formal, but I think it's that way because of the various issues that are involved here. So it's not lovey-dovey, but it's not really strained in any way. And there's been no issues that's come up regarding the team or Dan that have created any compromising things for us. And I, at the end of the day, have a little different thoughts than you read a lot about Dan. But that's understandable when they're friends. But my overriding interest is that Washington team and that Washington area have the kind of team that they are and should be. It's one of our top handful of franchises in this country. It's a national treasure. It really is. It's the team in our nation's capital. It's highly visible and creates a unique perspective for fans as to the NFL.
You anticipate a resolution here, or is it too
No,
complicated?
no,
Yeah.
no. There won't be one here.
All righty. Thank you,
Very
guys.
good.
Good.
Thank